Welcome to the Green Living Gurus broadcast. I am Therese Fortin-Barnes, your head guru and host of this show. And today we are talking to Holly Wade. Holly is a functional health coach. She helps those with autoimmune illnesses create a lifestyle to support their body so that they get quality of life back. Holly has almost 30 years of experience in the fitness and wellness industry and practical experience through her own struggle with anxiety, depression, and Crohn's disease. She knows firsthand the toll that stress takes on a person's life. Her passion is to help others reconnect with the wisdom of their own bodies so that they are empowered to make choices to support quality living. Holly weaves in her expertise in nutrition, fitness, stress management, and essential oils to help people create a holistic lifestyle to empower people to create the vibrancy they desire in their lives. She's also a master trainer for the World Groove Movement. She loves salsa, dancing, getting outdoors, her morning Java. She's a regular contributor to, We Are Beautiful magazine and Kai magazine. Welcome, Holly. I'm glad we connected and are here today to talk about what you are doing, how you're doing it, and you have a lot to offer everybody. So I'm so glad that we have connected here.
Me too. Thanks, Therese, for inviting me to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we both are in the industry, in the wellness industry, helping people different areas, but we're doing the same thing, and we want people to get over some of their illnesses and recover. And you have quite a story about Crohn's disease because you've had it and you still, I don't know if you consider yourself still having it. Can you never get rid of it? Give us a little bit about Crohn, let people know what Crohn's disease is and how did you find out that you actually had it?
Yeah. So Crohn's disease is under the category of autoimmune. So technically it is treatable, but not curable. So you can do things to send it into remission, but you'll probably experience cycles of flare-ups and remission and varying degrees within that cycle. So for me, it tends to be about every 5 years, I tend to experience more of a flare-up than others. Don't really know why that is, but that's what I'm starting to figure out. How I knew I had it, I actually didn't. My mom did, though. So I grew up when I was in 7th grade, I believe it was. My dad was diagnosed. And at that time, it was a new thing. No one knew what Crohn's was. No one knew how to treat it. No one knew. Doctors didn't even know much about it. So at that time, the solution was, all right, we'll do surgery. We'll take out the sick part and you'll be on your way. Well, he went septic and within a few months, he had 5 new areas. So clearly cutting out the bad part wasn't the solution. There are still some doctors that approach it that way, but there are new methods for surgery, and there are different ways to treat it now. So anyway, going back, about my junior year of high school, I just got really, really tired. No real answer. Didn't test as mono, didn't test as really anything, but just a fatigue. And so I spent the week in bed. And that was probably the start of the cycle. And that generally is one of the early signs of an autoimmune.
Right.
And so my mom had known this because she'd seen my dad's cycles. She didn't pick up on it quite yet, but fast forward to college and then grad school. And I'm fluctuating with my weight. My hair is fluctuating. Sometimes it's kind of straw straight. Sometimes it's got more bounce. I am tired and cranky. And I'm blaming the tiredness on being a student. I'm involved in things. I'm studying. I'm a serious student. I want those A's. I'm working and I'm doing all these other things. So, and then of course, eating the standard college student diet, which didn't help. Now, I wasn't a partier or a drinker, so that was in my favor, but I was still eating. At that time, I was teaching group fitness. And at that time, we were teaching low fat, no fat. So it was, bagels with cream cheese, and I'd still drink my soda so I'd have my caffeine and all these things that we now know not so great for the gut.
Right.
Yeah. But it took, once I got out of grad school, because of how health insurance worked at the time, when my symptoms were starting to get more serious, some digestive issues showing up. So for me, the thing that was throwing people off was that I was constipated rather than the other. And usually it's the other for people. And so that was kind of throwing people for a loop. That was throwing practitioners for a little bit of a loop. But insurance was such at the time that if I would have been diagnosed, I wouldn't have been able to have my own insurance once I was on my own, because I would have been considered having a pre-existing condition. So thankfully, those things have changed. And my family doctor was aware of that. And he goes, I don't want to start testing you yet because of this. And so thankfully, my little town doctor was thinking bigger term, longer term, and in this scenario. Well, my first big girl job was on the other end of the state. And so
Nebraska,
I come
right?
home. Yes, I'm in Nebraska. So it's an 8-hour drive from one end of the state to the other. And so I didn't feel like I had the time off and those things that you think when you are starting out your career. But I did start to go to some doctors to try to get a diagnosis.
Now you still don't know you have Crohn's.
Correct. Okay. Because it's a mystery illness. And this is a problem for a lot of people. They just can't really explain how they feel, but they know something's wrong.
Wrong, right.
Yeah. So I finally start to seek an official diagnosis. My mom had it pegged. I did not want to believe her. So I was in denial, but I was like, something's wrong. Let's get this figured out. My period stopped even. Oh, wow. So I knew something was wrong. And what I kept bumping into is my blood work wasn't showing anything. The tests they were doing weren't showing anything. And so it's kind of a pat me on the head, send me on my way. So I'm going through 6 weeks later, I'm back in going, I am so tired. I'm dropping weight. I can't put one foot in front of the other. I'm in my early 20s. I shouldn't be like this. So 5 gastroenterologists, and 2.5 years later, I finally had one that took me seriously and did the testing. In the meantime, I had prayed for a healer. I was like, I don't need it to be a doctor. I want a healer. I don't want to be a guinea pig for medication like my dad has been. I want something different. And I went to my chiropractor, and she goes, there's someone I want you to work with. And when you leave today, remind me to give you her business card. So I took it, I went home, I called this woman, and so we set up the appointment, and she goes, oh, by the way, I don't work out of my office that day. I work out of my home, and here's my address. And I said, say that again? Well, she lived right across the street from me.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So ask and you shall receive. So that started my path into a more holistic approach to health and well-being.
So then how did you go down that path? What was it? Was it your diet? Was it exercise? Was it getting chemicals away from your body? What was it?
All of the above.
Okay. Good. That's good. So if somebody's listening that has an autoimmune disorder, typically these are because you specialize in autoimmune, helping people with autoimmune illnesses, but you really know Crohn's inside and out. So give us a little bit of that, like what helped you.
It wasn't everything all at once.
Okay.
And she was really good about that. But I worked with her consistently I was there weekly for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Very committed. Very committed to my Sunday morning appointment across the street. Yeah. And so we started with the way I was eating and fueling my body, lots of supplements, because when a gut is inflamed, it's not absorbing. So you're malabsorbed. Plus, you add in toxicity from your environment. So then that was probably our next step, was removing, starting to change some things in the environment, whether that was my cleaning supplies, whether that was my hairspray, whether that was my makeup, all of the above, because it's all chemical that our skin absorbs one way or the other. And then stress management was always worked in there, stress management and emotional.
Right.
I was one who was a perfectionist, and I internalized. So I was one who would put it on my face like everything was okay. And I'd become really good at acting when it was eating me up inside.
Mm.
And so I had to learn a lot of skills about expressing my own needs, that what I had to say was valuable and I had something to contribute, how to handle boundaries, like, all right, that's enough. How to say to someone, this ticked me off and this is why. And to really own those things rather than just, but inside it was brewing.
Yeah, those can be toxins inside your body that create all that havoc, not only all the other things you're putting in your body too. So, and your mental well-being can be affected by that as well. So I get that. So you were eating better?
Yes.
You were watching all of the toxic chemicals that surround your body. And I loved how you said that it goes in your system, because that's obviously, it's one of my biggest things that I talk about in my practice, is how these chemicals affect people, bodies, babies, everybody. But especially somebody with an autoimmune illness, because I know that from my sister, who I mentioned to you, has mitochondrial, and she comes in contact with any certain chemical, it can just flare up her whole illness.
Yes.
And anybody that has any type of illness, these chemicals can just affect you, whether it's cancer, which is also an autoimmune illness, or Crohn's, or mitochondrial, and there's so many others. So it always amazes me when I talk to people that have gone through this, and you still have to take some type of medicines, but you are feeling better, you are doing better, you can survive with this illness that unfortunately you have, and you're helping others, which is so critical, that you have a voice out there now, that you are really letting people know that they can survive and live a normal life with Crohn's disease or another autoimmune illness. So your therapy, your treatments and therapies, are those what you just mentioned, the diet and the exercise and making sure you're less toxic and in your house and everything else?
That's always going to be your foundation. Always, 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 you're back to basics, really. Because what I've learned is that is what impacts your cells, bottom line.
Right.
We need fuel. And when we don't have what we need, then that just opens up more possibility for toxicity. Mm-hmm. So those two imbalances really go hand in hand. When we have the fuel, our bodies know what to do with that toxicity. They know what to do with the extra toxins. But when we're not absorbing, which is what is ultimately happening, or we're not absorbing, and our cells have let me come up with the easiest way to explain this. Our cells have a hard time with magnesium and with processing it, which is one of the detoxifiers. It's a mineral that helps to dump the gunk. Mm-hmm. And so there's a little bit of both things going on. And so that healing can happen, that therapy can happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. And you have to realize this is a full life commitment for me to help my body feel better.
Now, when you speak about magnesium and the toxins, are you speaking somebody with Crohn's?
With an autoimmune.
Autoimmune.
Basically with an autoimmune, yeah. So our cellular function may have some little bit of differences, but in general, it's the same. An autoimmune is an autoimmune is an autoimmune. It's just a different place that has been scarred. So that's where the inflammation is, for those that don't know what autoimmunes are. The theory or the idea is that your body is attacking itself. Your immune system is attacking a body part. There's a newer school of thought that it's actually viral. Mm. And if that's the case, then that's really great news, because we're going to be able to figure out how to treat it sooner rather than later, and maybe even go as far as finding the cure.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. So now you're into coaching. How did you get into coaching?
I worked in higher ed in fitness and taught for over a decade of my career. And there was a point where I actually, in all of my naturopathic treatment, in all of this, it just spurred something way back then inside of me. This like, I really want to help people truly be well. And 6 years ago, I left my career in higher education for health reasons and to be closer to family. So I was living in Virginia at the time, moved out there all by myself, still single. This was where my support system was. My nieces and nephews were growing. My brother and sister had adopted a baby girl from China. I mean, just a lot of things. There were a lot of reasons to come home. And so I came back, deathly ill at the time, but we're here. But even at that, I wanted to do something more along these lines to help people more specifically with lifestyle, because that's what it is, and to teach that we don't have to do things the way the world has told us.
Right.
If there is anything I have learned, my textbooks taught me this, and none of it applied in my life.
So true.
Including the fitness stuff, because an autoimmune body can't eat that way, can't move that way, can't function that way at all. Mm-hmm. And so I've just really had to flip my life. And, where I stand now is that we don't have to live with a sick care system. And that's what I believe we have. But it's going to have to take a grassroots effort. And it's going to have to take us being smart enough and demanding differently.
Right.
Say, you know what? Complementary medicine is what's going to help people the most at the end of the day.
I am with you on that. And I think it's going to take people like you and I that are facing and speaking up that there are options, there are alternatives to all of these illnesses that you can help yourself from simple diet, exercise, and watching the toxins. So now, one piece of advice, what would you give somebody that was diagnosed with Crohn's disease or an autoimmune illness, and they have no idea something's wrong with them? They know that it's inside of them, as you said before, something's just not right, and tests are coming back normal. Maybe the doctor wants to give them medicine because they don't know. So try this and try that and try this and try that. And I saw my sister go through it for so long.
No.
So what would be a little advice you can give to someone if they are listening that could help them along the way?
The beauty of the time that we live in is that there are more options than there were 25 years ago when I was seeking all of this. And we have functional health doctors. We have brilliant acupuncturists. We have brilliant naturopaths. And we have people that do specialize in autoimmunes. We have coaches. We have people who have gone before and have really taken a deep dive study in this, because we believe that medication doesn't have to be the only way. And believe it or not, I think one of the things that scares people off from seeking these other routes is the financial part. Let me just share a little something with you. I was just quoted for a colonoscopy, my out of pocket being $3,200.
Oh my gosh.
I know I can go to a functional medicine doctor for half that. So you'll find a way.
Right.
If you're really truly committed to getting well, you will find a way, and people will work with you.
Yes, do a little bit of research. I agree with you on that. Now, speaking of that, finding a way, you have a program. You and I are both in a program together. That's why I found you. But you have your own business.
Yeah.
And the website is, I'm trying to find it here. It's Holly Well. Oh, that's Instagram, Holly Wellness. So I'll post all these social media.
Just go to my social media links.
And we'll find you there. Yep. And your Facebook and social media. And you've got a private group on Facebook for people that really want to learn how to live with an autoimmune illness.
Mm-hmm.
And HW Wellness. Holly Wade is her name. But are you in the middle of offering a program? Are you working on like an online program? Are you doing one-on-ones, or how are you working? I'm sure all remote, because all of us are remote these days. So.
Right. I do both. I do one-on-ones, and I have a 12-week group program.
Okay.
And so the one-on-ones, that's for that person that is really specific in what they need, or the length of time that they want to commit. The 12 weeks is where we're really going to dive into what is an autoimmune, and a little bit nerd, a little bit of the physiology, because I think we have to understand what's going on in our bodies. But to understand, this is why we're eating the way we are. This is why we're moving a little bit the way that we are. This is why we're doing it differently. And then the toxic part, removing the toxicity and what to replace it with. I think that's the part that people get hung up on. It's like, well, I know I can't do this, but what can I have?
Right.
So part of that is not just okay, we're taking these things away. Let me show you what options really are, and let me show you how to read labels so you understand what they really are telling you, from cleaners, from all that stuff. If it says flammable, you don't want it.
Right. Exactly. I know.
And then we do work a lot on stress, because we want to reduce. Part of what keeps that autoimmune alive and well and brewing is the cortisol.
Yeah. And
so we really want to rewire that nervous system and open up and reduce pain and open up the body through how we move. So it does all come into an integrative place at the end, but we kind of have to tear it apart a little bit.
That's great. And you work with on the group program, which is wonderful. And I'll put that information on here as well.
Yeah.
And this is wonderful. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm getting ready to start up another 12-week here, about mid-March.
It's mid-March 2020. So we are at then I will promote that this coming, not this week, the week after. So that'll be perfect.
So if you're interested, just reach out to me and we'll get on a quick call and see what you need and if that's a good fit for you.
Yeah, I love that. So we will try to help you promote that, and I will promote it on my page as well too. And if they miss this round, I'm sure you're going to be doing it all, in a few
Yep.
more. Yeah. So
Just get in the group
get in the
and
group, get in
get
the
good
Facebook private
information.
group. That's key, because I know she's
Yeah.
got a lot of great information in there. And I signed up. I don't know if you got my.
I did. I added you today.
Okay, good.
Like, yeah, I know her. You'll have some great things to add and
Yeah,
contribute.
absolutely. So I look forward to connecting with you for a long time and working with you maybe again down the road, because we're both in this together and trying to make some changes and help people live a healthier life. So thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for joining me here today and offering your expertise to hopefully help somebody that's listening to our interview.
Absolutely. Thanks, Therese.
Oh, you're welcome. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.